Oh, I need to listen to
We are live. We're live. This is right after the vice presidential debate. We have some faces. We have some thoughts. Me and Gigi were watching together.
I know. I missed out. I was like, what was the party? I didn't talk about the watch party.
Yeah, girl, it just kind of happened. I have to post it on my story. I was like, look at our faces. Like, I just
because it was crazy, right? It wasn't as bad as
not as bad.
It wasn't as bad. However, it was still that interrupting. It was still that I'm speaking. It was still a lot of the cutting of off, them going over time. But I think this one was much more educational and informative about the state of affairs.
Right. One of my friends was like, Senator Harris was looking at Joe like, I know you lying. You know that black woman looking like,
yes.
And it brought back flashbacks. I was like, okay, oh no.
She was gonna come through that plexiglass. I was legitimately scared for his life. Shout out to the fly.
The fly one.
I was questioning myself. I'm like, is the fly on my TV? Do I got
so why was it there so long? He ain't wave it off. He ain't feel it.
Okay. All right, you guys. But let's get into it. Lawrence is gonna hop on in just a moment, but like we said, first things first, this is a much better debate in general in terms of actual information and policies being discussed. I would say mostly on Kamala Harris' side. She did go through the laundry list of all of what her and Biden are planning to do in terms of what's on their ticket. What do you two think about overall the energy of the debate?
I'll let Jasmine go.
You know, I wanted to say something. I think that it went well. I think, like you said, it was more of them talking to us. And I think the caveat of the whole conversation were both polarizing. It was both the two sides of America. Biden was talking very much to the white supremacists. He doubled down on pro-life. He doubled down on, or he didn't even say anything about pre-existing conditions. Those are the things that we care about as America. And then, I do, young urban professionals that do. And then Biden Harris was kind of giving us the real, and like, this is what America is going through. Like, are you in this alternative reality?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they talked to their base in the best way possible. And I think Kamala came back really strong on when he tried to come for her record.
Mm-hmm.
Because she stated the facts. She said, we had this conversation before where we were kind of saying, is she the prosecutor that Black Twitter says she is, or is she actually doing her work as a Black or intersectional woman? So, hey, Lawrence. So I think she addressed that appropriately as well.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Lawrence, you're chiming in now. So how you doing, first of all?
I'm doing good. Sorry I'm late. I was like watching the delayed broadcast, trying to set everything up. But yeah, good debate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hyped. Would you guys like start with a specific topic, or
no?
Just give my like
overall reactions to the debate in contrast to the presidential debate. How did you feel about how the two candidates carried themselves in general?
Well, it was night and day. Like there wasn't the, talking over each other. There wasn't the name calling. I like how both of them kind of like stayed. They used different tactics to make sure they weren't like being too rude. Kamala did the like, I'm talking. I'll wait till you're finished. And then Pence did. I didn't even think of this. Every time he got hit with a question, he got cut off. He just waited till the next question. He was like, yeah, I'm about to circle back to that other one and use my first 60 seconds on that one, which is a better way than talking over people. Yeah, take up more time. So I thought like at least that it was I feel like the American people got more out of it. We at least got to hear where people stood. I know we'll probably get to it, but I had to like Google during the broadcast like about the fracking issue because they were both like
We will not.
Hey,
Yeah,
hold on. Let me do some research because y'all both saying the exact opposite thing. So
Yeah, definitely. Gigi?
Yeah, so I liked this one for a variety of reasons. I thought the questions was better. I think people actually answered the questions. I also, like you, Lawrence, I wanted to Google the fracking. I also wanted to Google the effects of the fossil fuels because that was brought up and just how it affects our economy. I was really curious about. I'm not going to lie to you, though. The moderator wasn't my favorite. I felt like she let Pence talk a little bit longer. I really believe in being fair across the board. And I do feel like she sometimes let him talk a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it's like, I feel like Senator Harris had to constantly be like, hey, can I rebuttal? And she's like, yeah, but make it short. And she's like, I want my time. So I can relate to that. Like, you know, just because he went over and he didn't follow the rules, don't cut her on her time. And so, although I think this moderator was a little bit more direct and she handled both candidates a teeny bit better, I do feel like she gave Pence a little bit more time to answer questions, which I don't know. I didn't really like that.
Yeah, he was definitely bullying for his time, whereas Kamala, I think she was coached on it because normally she would come.
Right. I was waiting for the I'm reclaiming my time.
She let him make a fool of himself, I think, and him to and she never. I don't recall her cutting him off. The only thing I do recall her doing was, well, let me speak. I know I'm over, but he took up some of my time. She stood up for herself, which I thought was really good. And she just didn't let him bully her majority of the time. I do think she could have came a little bit harder, but I get it because she wanted to not act like Trump and how they were acting.
Or the typical Black woman, you know what I mean? So some other people can act a certain way, but when you're a person of color and you do the exact same thing, it's like, oh, you're aggressive. Like, oh, calm down.
I was waiting for. I thought he was going to call her BITCH. I was waiting for it.
Right. So let's go down the list of all of the topics, you guys, really quickly, because I know it's later than what we normally do. So we do thank you guys for tuning in. Coronavirus. That was the very first topic. And
coronavirus. You gotta say it right. Coronavirus.
So what?
Wait. Can I just say one thing before we get started? Why Stella talking about Pence was burying himself, which is why that fly landed on him.
That's right.
I know everybody took a picture of that fly. I'm sure that fly is going to go.
That was there for a long time.
It was there like 2 whole questions. Saturday Night Live, Instagram, Twitter is about to go crazy. That fly, it just wouldn't move. He was turning his head. It was still there. It crawled to the back, came back to the front. I was like, oh my God.
That fly was there forever. I mean, I was like, is it his friend or what? Like,
and it was a big fly too. It wasn't no little That was hilarious. Well, okay, coronavirus.
And also his ass was a little pink, and I was like, do you got coronavirus?
Right, that part. So, as mentioned, so far 210,000 people have been killed because of coronavirus, with 7 million contractions. 1 in 5 businesses closed. And Kamala Harris, went over all of these facts with her inevitable, as Jasmine would say. Well, here's the thing. So, Jasmine, what do you think about both of their responses to coronavirus? The question posed.
Well, in the words of Kamala, well, here's the thing. I think that he is the leader of the task force. He still tried to play it down. She came with the facts and the empathy of it all, which we predicted. I mean, she's coming in as a mom. She's coming in as the woman so she had to bring a little empathy and talk to the American people like, yo, we are scared. And your president just got coronavirus. You had a hissy fit about the whole way we were debating today with the plexiglass. You are not handling. And then she said, your plan isn't working. So we got to come up with plan B. So I love when she combated that. He had no rebuttal. He had no.
Well, the one thing he did keep mentioning throughout the entire, time that they were discussing coronavirus and other topics was Trump banned China. Trump banned China. Trump banned China.
Right from Europe.
And like leading with that and punching that over the head, which I wanted her to say, but she didn't say, which we all know that we didn't get it from China directly. It came from Europe. So Lawrence, I see you making, what are your thoughts?
Well, in the words of Pence, the American people deserve to know that it originally, I just think it's an objective fact at this point. coronavirus originated in China. And I don't want to be, I know that's still kind of controversial topic when people say that. I'm not trying to be racist at all, but I feel like it's an objective fact. Now, the strand of coronavirus, it came via China through Europe, and then the Europeans traveled back and forth. There was more commerce that brought it to us. But I feel like, I don't know why people like shy away from that. I feel like when the topic of coronavirus first came out, it was like, we don't know where it came from. Maybe it didn't come from China. And I understand the argument of that, like, well, you know, he could have done better stuff. But like, to me, it's just the fact it came from China. And when people are like, oh, no, it didn't come from there, I'm just like, I think it did. Unless I'm wrong about something.
It did, but I think it's the sentiment of saying that we're closing down China as if the virus came directly from China. Right. He's boasting about a plan that didn't work.
But it did, didn't it?
Yeah, it'd be different if he said we shut down international travel. We shut down, like, say it generally like that, and you make a better argument. Say we stop flights from Europe, which he didn't do, but he would never say that. And like, it's the fact that you're calling it China, trying to make it divisive.
All right, I feel that. Like, so from my perspective, obviously this administration has done a horrible job dealing with the coronavirus, from the dog whistling of whatever, like not wearing masks, to the erroneous comments about drinking bleach and stuff. I get all that. But I'm like, as a human being, if, you know, I went over your house, Jasmine, or I heard
my house, don't talk about my house got coronavirus.
Well, if you had coronavirus and then you went to Sharik house and then you want to come over my house, I'll be like, I'm banning everybody. But you know, I could ban anybody. So you being like, oh, well, you should have banned this or that. I'm like, he should have done more, obviously. But as Americans, we know there's a different connection that we have financially, economically, politically with Europe than we do with China. You know what I'm saying? China's a communist country. It's easier to ban them. You start banning your allies, that takes a little more research. It takes a little more to get into. So I'm not convinced that if Biden,
want to piss Europe off because they're allies and all the trade and stuff. But
Biden wouldn't have done it either. Biden, like, no president would have just in the first couple months of coronavirus been like, we're gonna. I don't think
about international travel. Don't call me out as my country.
Gigi, your thoughts?
You know, here's the thing, and it's like beating a dead horse. It's like coulda, shoulda, woulda. There's a million ways we could have potentially handled this, right? But I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was that he said that Biden wouldn't have closed those international travels. That's kind of the thing that they're really, you know, going off of. And then Pence also talked about the way in which I think it was like the flu? Was the flu Ebola or the flu?
They talk about H1N1.
Swine flu?
Yeah, and how that was swine flu. And then how that was handled, because each party handled it completely different. So I think as of right now, we can always talk about coulda, shoulda, woulda. But the thing that sticks out to me the most is how coronavirus has affected the economy. And and I talked about this last week. I'm going to talk about it this week. Biden really wanted the economy to kind of stay shut down. Trump was like, the economy is suffering. We wanted to open up. You guys know how I feel. Like, I personally feel like people are suffering with the economy shut down. And so he brought it back up. And so I think we can always talk about, oh, he should have did this. Oh, he should have did that. But we're here now. So at this point, I'm more curious as to what we're going to do going forward. And I think we're going to talk about vaccinations a little bit later. But I want to get into that, because this is where we are right now.
Yeah, let's actually talk about it now, because one of the questions that was posed to Kamala Harris by the moderator was, Kamala, if Trump says that there's a vaccine, will you take the vaccine? And she said, if the scientists say it's okay, yes. If it's just coming from Trump, I will not. And it seemed as though the vice president kind of twisted her words a bit and said that she's not supporting a vaccine whatsoever. Do you hear this, guys? She's not supporting a vaccine whatsoever. How is she downplaying the vaccine? He did a lot of that word twisting too, which I'll bring up a little bit later. What do you guys think about her response to that question?
I think both responses were trash. Like, it was a way of trying to put like your hand in both pots of saying that, oh, well, if the science says yes. Well, let's break it down. If Trump approves any type of vaccine, that's coming from the FDA. It's going to come from a scientific standpoint. So it's not like Trump is just going to say on his own, like, okay, hospitals, go ahead and approve this. He has to get some type of scientific backing. Now, if you believe in the science, but you don't believe in Trump, what are you saying the correlation between Trump and the science is? Are you going to believe some scientists? And then like people, Fauci specifically, who she named, she was like, well, Fauci said yes. Well, Fauci's been accused of saying some stuff that necessarily wasn't in the best interest of the American people because of Trump or had Trump influence too. So I feel like her answer was wrong. Pence's answer sucked too, because it's like, you haven't really been doing anything. Your whole like policy around the coronavirus is get people back to work. It's not that big. We have the best medicines. I saw something today on Trump. He posted on Instagram saying he feels like there's a cure out there. He kept saying that, like, we have therapeutics that I took, but I took it and I feel great. So I call that a cure. I'm like, so both of them are trash.
Yeah, and they also mentioned the actual Rose Garden.
Yeah.
The pandemic in the Rose Garden, that's what I'm going to call it, when they were doing the introduction of the Supreme Court nominee. What I thought that was interesting that he mentioned was Dr. Fauci said, pretty much whatever Dr. Fauci said, that they followed it. And that Dr. Fauci said that they followed everything that he said, which we know is false. And that Dr. Fauci said if they did everything right, 200,000 people still would have died regardless.
And did you also catch that he said that they was working on the vaccine in January? Or
yeah,
they said something.
They speak of the vaccine as if it already exists.
Right. And when did that information come out? That's breaking news.
Right. Go ahead, Gigi.
I was just going to say that there's a lot of controversy right now because Dr. Fauci has said things that Trump hasn't agreed with and Trump has agreed with. And so one thing that the moderator said is that if the vaccination comes out, 50% of Americans have said that they're not going to take it. And so if you think about that, 50% of Americans said that they are not going to take this vaccination that's supposed to cure, this coronavirus. Not to mention Trump just had coronavirus and now he's out and about without a mask on and he's feeling great. So for me, it's just more so like, how does this all tie in?
Right.
How does him getting the coronavirus and now, the vice presidential debate was tonight, they asking this question. And Lawrence, as you said earlier, both of the answers suck because neither one of the candidates are really addressing the issue that makes me feel comfortable. Neither one of them.
They're going to push the therapeutics. They're not going to push. I mean, we don't know, but
I definitely think they're going to push a vaccination. Absolutely. I definitely think they're going to push a vaccination because they have been talking about it in different ways. And I'm not saying that Trump did not have coronavirus. Maybe he did. I don't really know. I'm not in that household, but I definitely think that there are some correlations and I'm just closely watching it. But the fact that 50% of Americans said that they are not comfortable with the vaccination, I think that is definitely going to cause some discourse, and I'm just waiting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, one thing I do want to make note of, I think Kamala did very well, is she tied in the Affordable Care Act with the situation with the pandemic, basically saying you guys are trying to put the Supreme Court justice in here. You guys want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You've been trying to do it for the past 4 years. You haven't been able to do it. And if you do it, what does that mean during a pandemic when so many Americans have lost their jobs? They do not have adequate health coverage. What does that mean? I thought that was a really good point that she brought up.
And they're getting pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, pre-existing conditions was also something that she mentioned. Pence did speak to that, sort of. He didn't quite answer that question, but I thought
he did.
Did you caught it?
Yeah. He said he ended up saying maybe a little bit later on that they're going to come out with something that's comparable to that. Because the Affordable Care Act, like I think it's more so like, okay, after 26, you can't be on your parents' insurance and stuff like that. So to me, the Affordable Care Act does not benefit me at all. And I know that there's a lot of my colleagues and people that I know that the Affordable Care Act don't really benefit them as much as I think something like maybe a universal healthcare system would. And neither one of them talked about that. But in other countries, they have that. They have the universal healthcare system.
Kamala did say that they were going to allow people to still have a choice, which I believe Biden also mentioned in the last debate. What were you going to say?
Choice? What do you mean?
To be able to still have private insurance as an option.
Well, yeah, nothing's mandatory at this point. So, yeah, I mean, you can have the choice, but I'm just saying in regards to
the universal health care, the universal health care, what's in that versus what's in a private.
Yeah.
And they're not going to give you everything you want in that public.
Exactly.
Lawrence?
Well, so I have very, very strong like views on the Affordable Health Care Act. But like in general, yeah, I think that's the argument right now from the liberal standpoint is if we're going to go to a single payer model, like that's what Gigi was talking about, where everybody's on the same type of healthcare. It's like in Canada, you go to the doctor, you get healthcare. What we have right now is a dual model where if you are on what's called like Medi-Cal, or if you don't have a certain amount of money, or if you're underage, then you'll have completely free healthcare. And then even if you have your own private insurance, there's still an option, but you still get some of the benefits. Like you still, no matter what, they can't turn you down for pre-existing injuries. There's still, no matter what, certain caps on other aspects of the healthcare. So I'm super liberal when it comes to healthcare. I feel like we should have gone to a Bernie Sanders like full model. But you know what I'm saying? Like
the entrepreneur. Like what about the entrepreneur? Where's the healthcare for that?
Well, so that's it.
Yeah,
but you have to be on a threshold. You can't make it for Medi-Cal. There's a certain amount you can't make over. Mm-hmm. If you're an entrepreneur, well, you guys got to share that with me because I'm not aware of any affordable healthcare acts that I can actually participate in besides Medi-Cal as an entrepreneur.
So one, Medi-Cal is great. Medi-Cal, I was on Medi-Cal for years. Medi-Cal is actually a really, really great.
It is, but you can't make over a certain amount with Medi-Cal.
Yeah, but if you have, but still, Affordable Health Care Act still depresses the prices. So, like, if you didn't have the Affordable Health Care Act, you getting your own health care might be $500 a month. Right now, it's $250.
It's not affordable.
No, right now it's like $250. And the reason why it's not affordable is because people keep trying to push away Obamacare. If we really did what Obama wanted to do, it wouldn't be anything. Then you would just pay taxes and then your healthcare would be paid for. But people don't want that because they listen to, but that's a whole nother topic. Like I'm just all for, I don't see a reason why. And I'm a person that can afford my own healthcare. And I still think a better system is we pay taxes, you get unlimited policing, you get unlimited firefighters, you get unlimited roads, you get unlimited all this other stuff, but you can't get unlimited healthcare.
Yeah,
I want
unlimited military.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, I'm going to skip over the second topic, which was more about the president's age. They old.
Neither of them answered that question either.
They did, but that's what they went back to their previous points and did that. So the third question was about the economy. It talked about the unemployment rate declining in September. As we know, it's been a very fickle scale going up and down due to COVID. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is Pence kept talking about the taxes. He wanted to keep saying Biden and Kamala are going to raise your taxes. They want to get rid of our tax plan. They want to raise your taxes, raise your taxes, raise your taxes. Kamala kept saying we're only going to tax the $400,000 making percentage of the company. I mean, of the world, or United States. I'm sorry. It was just so ridiculous. It hurts my head. So what do you guys think about that exchange, with that back and forth? Because it took up pretty much a lot of time that they kept going back and forth about that.
I pay a lot in taxes. I pay a lot, and I don't like it.
And I don't even make, as much as now.
Say that
the whole system needs to get restructured, but I think, again, he's talking to his demographic where they are entrepreneurs and they are the 1% who they are going to mess with their taxes. They're not talking to us, the 99% that not need their taxes cut, but should be paying a fair amount of taxes based on their income.
Yeah.
I will say this. Pence said that there was a $4 trillion in direct payments to family. And so I'm going to be honest with y'all.
Where was that?
You said what now?
I'm saying I didn't get that. To family?
You might have to rewatch it. But this is what I will say is that a lot of people, they got the 2,000, cool. But even my friends that were in unemployment, that additional amount, they're getting actually more, not now, but they were getting actually more than they were getting paid before. SBA loans, the PPP loans, a lot of people benefit. And at first, that money went to big corporations. Small businesses raised a ruckus. That money come back. My business got one of those benefits from it. You know what I mean? So I personally know people of color that not only are living that lavish lifestyle off of that unemployment check, but they also were able to take their businesses to the next level with that. So when he was saying it, I was like, it's true. Now, I will say this. It is kind of unfair that he's not going to release a second stimulus until the election. I thought that was kind of unfair.
Right.
I will say that. I did think that was
ultimatum.
Right.
But let's not pretend like Democrats wouldn't have passed the stimulus package
exactly
if they were in office, and let's not pretend like it wasn't
hypothetically what they would and wouldn't do. We don't know that. I'm just putting out the facts.
They're the social.
What we can do off of the facts is look at the bipartisan support from the Republicans and Democrats that passed it. It's not like only Republicans voted for it and Democrats didn't. So right now, the Democrats put money in your pocket too. It wasn't just Trump. It wasn't just Trump. You know what I'm saying? The Democrats put money in your pocket too.
Okay, but
the economy,
Republicans are the ones that hold the office. So we can talk about this and that, but we're just talking about facts, and those are the facts. Those are the facts. Like, you can't deny the facts of what is actually happening.
But but it did need bipartisan support in order for it to go through. It wasn't going to go through without the bipartisan support. So we both of you guys are right. You both are right. Jasmine, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, but also if we're going to even talk about him giving money and distributing and building the economy, Kamala said he inherited Obama's economy, and that's why he was able to manipulate and have all these economic successes over the past years. And I think if he gets reelected, it's going to be a ride or die moment for him. Like, if he doesn't build up the economy, then I mean, it's the businessman that we expect, that we've learned from the past 4 years.
Right.
And you can say, okay, Trump has built the economy, has done all these great things. But in my opinion, his record shows that he's not thinking about the economy for the average person. And it's not going to benefit us.
And I got to go back to the stimulus package again. So, like, in our government, there are 3 equal branches of government, right? It's the presidency, and then you have the Senate, and then you have the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives creates the laws. They're the ones that write it. There's no law that gets created without them. The House of Representatives are majority Democrats. So they wrote the law, they created it, and then the Republicans above them had to sign off on it. But there would be no stimulus package if it wasn't for the majority of the Democrats. And then the Republicans want to take credit for it. Like,
I'm so glad you said that, Lawrence, because that's one thing that Pence actually stated. He actually stated that a lot of the policies that they currently have in place are very similar to the ones that the Democrats are actually proposing. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think similarity is crucial. That term right there is crucial. Like, yes, they're similar in general, but there are 1 or 2 things that can lead something to go one way or another. If we go back to the crime bill of '94, there were a few provisions there.
Bill, right?
If you no. Let's
I mean, the propaganda.
Biden definitely voted for the crime bill.
You talking about facts, right?
Biden definitely voted for the crime bill. Absolutely. My point is that when you have a few things within the bill, you can go either way. And over generations, over a time period, it can lead to extreme trauma, just like that did. It led to mass incarceration when that wasn't the focus of the bill. The focus of the bill was to get AK-47s off the street. And it really wasn't the Democrats had to agree to certain provisions that would increase jail sentences in order to deal with the NRA and the gun laws of the Republicans. So it makes the Democrats look bad because they had to alter the bill to get it passed. But in politics, if you have to give a little to get a little, sometimes what you're given is bigger than what you think. But I want to go back to the facts of just this stimulus bill. Democrats created it. That's just a fact. That's a fact.
Well, we all know from this election that Biden and Harris's, some of their policies are very similar to the one Trump has. And we saw that in last week's debate and the talk about Black Lives Matter. And even Biden was like, he doesn't believe in defunding the police. And so here's the thing. I'm just about being fair, and the facts of the matter is. And I think what's happening is social media is like, oh my God, like, Biden is like a hero. And I'm like, his policies and the things that he's presenting isn't like it's going to benefit some of the things isn't going to be like it benefits the people like more so than Trump is. It's just more so people don't like Trump, and I get it. He's not,
and I'm glad you said that.
He is not the most likable person, but we talk about the policies that are set in place, and and I think people get caught up in semantics. I mean, I'm listening to Senator Harris, and she sounds amazing.
Yeah, so let me run through that really quickly, just because I want our audience who maybe did not catch it. She said that Biden will repeal and invest in the people and the infrastructure and the clean energy, innovation, research and development, and education. She said free community college and student loan debt will be cut $10K, which Jasmine said that ain't enough.
And I like that she said that. She said public education will be free.
Absolutely. Community college.
If you make under $400,000.
Which most of us do. Yeah.
Yeah, most Americans make under that.
Yeah.
I never said they didn't. I'm just making sure I tell you what you said.
That's a good point. That is a good point. But that's
some people over here might make $1 million. They don't apply to that.
And they had the means to pay. Why are you trying to get cuts when you got the means?
Right. Okay, Lawrence. Lawrence,
you the discount man. You always got a coupon.
You should still like listen. I got a lot in student loan. I make a lot, but I have a lot in student loan debt. So like, I shouldn't get a discount. Like just because you make a lot, don't mean you shouldn't get a discount.
I think that's different
because that's a conversation.
I think with a student loan debt, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a conversation we can definitely.
No, I don't think you should get a discount. I'm just gonna say it. No, I don't.
I mean, my family paid out of pocket for my tuition. Should I get a discount too?
Did you go to school for 10 years?
No.
Then I should get a discount. If I went to school for 10 years, I had to pay all that money.
Master's degree, if you have to have a specialized thing, like I think doctors, I don't think they should have to pay all that crazy money.
Look at I like Latanza's
doctors.
I like Latanza's comment. She said we definitely need student loans redress. Cut that 10,000. And Latanza, Miss Price, girl, I agree with you. But depending on how long you went to school, to Jasmine and Lawrence's point, that 10,000 ain't nothing.
It's not.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Drop in a bucket. That's a drop in a bucket.
It ain't nothing. I went to a private school, Clark Atlanta University. Okay, it's nothing. And I went to Pepperdine. Nothing. Okay,
so 10K is your dorm,
but it sounds good.
One semester.
Right.
All right, let's move over to the next topic because this one did take up a lot of time too. Climate change. Pence started off saying, "I'm proud of our record on the environment. Water is the cleanest in the world," which I did do a fact check. Yeah. He wasn't 100% wrong. He also said the U.S. has decreased CO2 in natural gases, and fracking is a big issue. He wasn't 100% wrong. He was a little confusing with the CO2 emissions. What do you guys think about climate change? Because we know this is a very bipartisan conversation.
I think when he was, and it goes back a little bit to when she said they were going to reallocate dollars to infrastructure and clean buildings and all that good stuff. I think that's what we need. And I think that skip me. I forget.
All right. A couple things. One, it is a bipartisan issue, except for Trump. Trump has consistently denounced the idea of global climate change due to CO2 emissions. He just has. Even when he went to go meet with the governor of California, he said all this other stuff about the fires and you need to cut your grass, mow your lawn, all this other stuff. Like Trump hasn't. His party has, in fairness. In regards to fracking, which was a big topic, just to give a brief history of fracking, what it is it's liquefying the natural gases under the ground. What you do is you stick a pipe in, you heat it up, and you take a lot of the natural gases out. When you do that, it takes away the foundation of the soil, and it kind of creates a crater in the ground. It also takes away the minerals from our topsoil for agriculture. Fracking, in my opinion, is bad. So I understand why even the liberals had to say, we're not going to stop fracking, because there's a lot of jobs when it comes to crude oil or natural gas. Both of them are bad. The true way of getting rid of the CO2 pollution that we have is planting more trees and eating less meat. We know that, but we want to talk about clean energy, solar panels, electric cars. That's great. We can do all that. But for me, that's why, again, on this topic, I'm a little torn. Trump and his administration seems to be doing little of nothing. Literally what Pence said was, we invested in national parks. What does that have to do with CO2 emissions, with greenhouse gases, with electric, and nothing? And then even from this standpoint, I understand this is where I get scared with the give a little, and then you in the long run end up taking away a lot. Like if we're talking about pipelines, if we're talking about fracking just to save American jobs today, what will it look like 30 years from now?
Right, and that's my thing, is they need to be investing in these green energy jobs instead of investing in fracking. And I get it's going to take time to readjust and train those people to do a different job, but I think that's when the investment needs to be, so that you're removing the bad job and creating a better job. I don't understand why that's not the conversation.
Here's the thing. We kind of mentioned this earlier. We had to do some Google research because I'm like, what is fracking? I also had to research fossil fuels. How does this really affect us? The reality of it is, Pence, like, if you ban fracking, which is what he's claiming that Joe Biden wants to do, it's not just jobs. It says by the year 2025, and this wasn't mentioned, but this is the research that I did, 19 million jobs are going to be lost. Not only that, but it directly affects the economy. Climate change is real. So it's more than just, I mean, yes, we can do green and energy saving, and that's great, but to ban fracking is a huge deal. And I think that for all of us that are on this call and everyone that is like listening in, that is something that we should all research, because it will directly affect not only the jobs, but of course jobs, the economy, but also the environment.
Right. And Senator Harris did reiterate again and again that that is not on their agenda to ban fracking. She also mentioned,
I looked it up and he did say that.
And in my Pence voice, I think the American people deserve to know this, that yes, if you ban fracking, you will lose 19 million jobs. But that's like saying in California, within our governor just said within the next, I think it's 20 years, we're going to ban the sale of all gas powered vehicles. But if you just say that alone, people think, oh my goodness. No, I am. That's my point. We shouldn't. I'm saying that we should ban fracking because fracking's bad for both parties, is what I'm saying. I'm saying we should ban fracking across the board. And I'm saying that I'm sad to see that liberals are still okay with it in order to save jobs. But what I'm saying is, in the same way that in 20 years, you won't be able to buy a car that takes gasoline in California, you're not going to need it because they're going to invest in electric cars, because you have Tesla, you have Polaris. And the same way that you're saying 19 million jobs will be lost if we take away fracking, those 19 million jobs will be gained by putting it into other clean resources. It's not like you're just, it is a guarantee. It's part of their plan.
Because it's not 20 years, this is 5 years. We're talking about 5 years.
So talk about training them now. Why are we waiting and having this discussion? We can be training those people who are fracking as jobs and getting them STEM jobs or whatever they need to know, so that they can be engineers, so that they can work on the electrical cars. All that fracking is creating oil, so that we can get gas.
Yeah, research has shown if you pay attention, especially with coal mining, you know, coal mining coal mining has pretty much dissipated within our country, and a lot of the coal miners have actually gotten into programs that was established during the Democratic era that allowed them to learn coding and learn other trades that are more on the technological side. And then, of course, then we're getting rid of certain emissions into the economy. So I personally do believe that if we look for alternatives, there would, of course, have to be a new plan set in place before you just completely ban. So we need to have something solid first and start rolling it out in a strategic manner, which honestly, this administration does not do. They don't do anything strategically. If you look at this wall situation that they've been building, like it's just it's not strategic with it at all. So, you know, I don't trust this particular administration to do what is right and to abide by it. They took us out of the Paris climate deal. They took us out of the Green New Deal. And what I didn't mention in regards to COVID is they got rid of the disease task force that was in China that would have caught the virus before it came over here in the first place. Which
they would have asked a coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah, they just don't have strategic plans already in place. They just say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen. Or if it does happen, it's just on some weird contingency.
It's an executive order to make him look good.
Right.
Yeah.
I can understand that, but I guess I have not heard anything from Biden or Harris that makes me feel like the economy is going to be so much better. And I think that that's where I stand. It's like more so accountability. Yes, we can talk about this current administration, but unless we acknowledge what this current administration is doing wrong, as well as hold the next potential administration accountable and making sure that their policies are going to be better, I don't feel like we're going to be better as an economy. And that's my whole thing, is that people like, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, but they really don't give any accountability to Biden or Harris. Like, they're like, oh, okay, she's great. She's AKA.
Kamala Harris literally said her plan. She was like, my plan is to raise taxes, take away the tax cuts, and invest in infrastructure.
I'm talking about generally speaking, even last week's debate, they specifically asked Joe Biden about Black Lives Matter and how he's going to handle that. He said he did not believe in defunding the police. He said, if anything, they need more funding. I'm saying we need to hold people accountable. So
I'm glad
we
you
can have our opinions about Trump, and that's fine. But let's make sure that we hold Senator Harris and VP Biden accountable, so that if we're going to elect this new administration, we're not just electing them because they sound better. We're electing them because they actually are going to implement policies and procedures that are going to help the American people.
I'm glad you said that. On today's broadcast, I kind of like segueing into the racial justice argument that you brought up. She outlined 5 specific tangible policies that she would put into order immediately, including banning chokeholds, banning knees on necks, implementing a requirement that all cops that have ever been convicted of a crime, there's a national database. And I think there were 2 others. These are tangible things.
Rid of private prisons and decriminalizing marijuana, and allow the people that have been incarcerated because of marijuana to be let out.
6 things, all 6 things, tangible, very serious facts that can be implemented with executive order as soon as they get in office, while this Trump administration says nothing consistently. As Black people die on the streets, they consistently dog whistle to racists, to white supremacists. And when you ask them for a specific policy, I've not heard one specific thing that they will do to protect Black lives. And that's where, and at that point, I literally stood up in the living room and started clapping. Because I was like, if I hear another person say, especially a person of color, like, I don't know about Biden, I don't know about Harris. I'm like, when it comes down to, regardless of how you feel about the economy, regardless of how you feel about COVID, these people on this side are literally tangibly giving you factual evidence of how they're going to protect Black lives, while this other program is saying nothing and denouncing it and actually racism. I'm like, how could you?
I'm not gonna lie. That's the thing that I agree with her the absolute most. I think she did an amazing job of addressing racial injustice and Breonna Taylor. I can't disagree with that. I was like, yes, amen. She did a great job at that. You know, for me, it's not just one, it's overall. And that's what I'm speaking for. But she was on point. The decriminalization of marijuana and everything that she was saying, I completely agree. And I didn't like what Pence said. He talked about how if you didn't trust the grand jury, you know, in the justice system, where can you be? I didn't agree with what he said. So I'm just saying we have to hold people accountable overall for all of the topics. She did a great job at addressing that tonight. Biden did not.
On what Pence said, I'm gonna let you go real quick, Jasmine. I just wanted verbatim of what Pence's response was to the question of the Breonna Taylor injustice. He said, I trust our justice system. There's no excuse for rioting and looting. He then proceeded, which is something that him and Trump like to do, pointed out someone in the audience that they brought in, you know, for the emotional tug. I believe the lady's name was Flora. I'm not sure. He spoke about how her salon got burned down because of rioting and looting. What does that have to do with racial injustice? So he's taking the subject of Breonna Taylor and flipping it to be about a business owner who suffered rioting and looting, but who actually burned down her business. They didn't talk about these different organizations that are going out there masking themselves as protesters. Jasmine?
I think in the beginning of the debate, when Kamala Harris said that his response to the coronavirus forfeited his ability to this election, I think it's also their response to police brutality, because I think it's all a ripple effect. The way we're dealing with the pandemic, in a scarcity mentality. Have all this trauma that's building up on us. We're watching social media where we're marching in the streets, seeing people get beat up, all that drama. I think it is the ripple effect and how Pence is handling it and Trump is handling it. It's no excuse to why I feel like people are still undecided. I feel like it's no excuse to vote for the other administration. And I think when you say, Jerica, we need to hold each party accountable, you have to hold Trump's administration accountable for COVID and the ripple effect that it's caused this country. And I think we have the ripple effect that's going to keep going, or we have at least a party who will drive some kind of normalcy.
And I think I do. I'm glad that you said that. It's like, I've been saying this, like when I say coulda, woulda, shoulda, it's kind of like, what do we do now? He didn't handle it the way in which he should have handled it. And I've talked about that on previous shows. But I also asked questions to you guys. What way do you think he could have handled it better, or any person could have handled it better? This was also unknown. I've asked that question, and it's more so like
dismantle the task force that Biden and Obama set up.
Yeah.
I can understand
people should wear masks.
I can understand that, but he did, right? So it's kind of like we can always talk
hold him
about
accountable for doing that.
He could today.
Okay, but what do you do now? Like
right now, today.
What do you do now?
He came out literally today in his press conference today when he came out talking about I feel 20 years better than I've ever felt. I feel like we have a cure. Don't be afraid of coronavirus. Don't let it stop you. Keep going out. Stop telling people to go out and then conduct their lives as normal and say, hey, you should wear a mask. You could take more precautions. If the commander-in-chief gave a little more precaution and actually led by example and saying, hey, if I have coronavirus and I'm standing next to my Secret Service, I'm going to put a mask on instead of taking your mask off. He could do those things that could actually make a difference.
I like Stella's comment. She says, I think the real issue is that Biden and Harris could be held accountable, while Trump and Pence are a literal vote from the depths, hope from the American people in any country, territory under our purview. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I just want to make sure that I clarify. I think Trump should be held accountable. And I also think that Biden and Harris should be held accountable to what they're going to do to change things differently. What I see on social media is not people holding them accountable at all. It's also like, okay, we're going to vote for them, and that's fine, but why? You know, like, I know you don't like Trump. I know you don't like the way that things are going. I know his leadership is definitely not the best, but it's more so like, and I'm not saying I'm going to vote for him, and I'm not saying who I'm going to vote for, but what I will say is that let's look at the policies and procedures that both parties are trying to put into place for this newfound administration, whether it be continue to be Trump or whether it be Senator Harris and VP Biden. What I don't see is people really researching how these policies and procedures are going to affect the American people. I don't see that. All I see is I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump. And I get that. He's not the best person, doesn't have the best leadership. You know, but what I'm saying is I want everyone to do their research on, okay, well, you guys always, you know, you want to vote for Biden and Senator Harris, cool. But how is that going to be different? Like, I really want, this is rhetorical, like, I really want to see how this new administration is going to change things differently. And I think that unless we do our research on the different policies, what banning fracking like does to us, what fossil fuels does to us, like all of that, and listening to the candidates, how they're going to eliminate racial injustice. Harris did great tonight. Biden didn't address it last week. So we just need to be consistent across the board overall. And that's my whole thing, is be consistent across the board overall and make sure that we're holding everyone accountable.
Yeah.
Gigi, if I live with my girlfriend for 4 years and she beats me up and I have a horrible time, I'm not gonna be like, oh man, what about my next girlfriend? What about my next? If I had a horrible situation for 4 years, I'm out of here. I'll take my chances on the next. If you want to sit around with Trump for 4 more years and hope and pray that he does better than he did last time, if you want to sit in an abusive relationship with your president,
I'm telling people that and you shouldn't have a problem with research. You're a lawyer.
Well,
you're downplaying the abuse. You're downplaying how bad Trump is.
Let me interject. I get what you're saying, Gigi. I totally get what you're saying. I do believe that people need to research, but the fact of the matter is, what options do we have right now? Just as you said, what option do we have right now for Trump? What can Trump do right now? What can we do right now is vote this man out of here, regardless of the situation. I totally understand, but I think more so in terms of the down ballot, in terms of who we're going to put into place to affect our local politics and to affect, who's in the House and who's in the Senate. But at this point, there's no other option. We can't vote for Kanye. We can't vote for, so I totally get where you're coming from. As Lauren said, we're being beat up. Our people, we're being beat up as an economy. I
will say voting is important.
Let me finish. Businesses have just tanked. And that's because of the policies that he took away. He took away infrastructure that would have prevented this to begin with. We can't afford another 4 years of this. So Biden has experience as a vice president. If I didn't do my research, and I'm a very research heavy person, like you said, I go into it. If I didn't do my research, I would honestly still vote this man out, period. Because he has not been good for us.
I think the thing that I say every week is the voting, how important voting is. I can post something on my page and like, who do you vote for, Harris or Pence? People won't even vote on that, but they'll vote on something relationship wise. So my thing is, people don't do their research. People don't vote, and I get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good talk. It's a good talk, but the reality of it is people don't do their research and they don't vote. And at the end of the day, that's really all I'm saying is just make sure you do your research, make sure you vote. And I say it every single week, your local elections are more important than the presidential election. Unfortunately, because I say it every week, if I get locked up tomorrow, I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care if it's Biden, they're not going to come down from the White House and come get me out. They're just not.
Right. One of the things that Kamala said,
if you get pregnant tomorrow and Trump is still pregnant, it might affect you though.
If you're not California,
I'm just saying.
I'm not gonna argue with you tonight, Lauren.
If you get pregnant though, like,
okay. That Kamala Harris said, and I hope people really paid attention to it, was her record as a DA and as an attorney general. And she said, I will not be lectured by anybody on this stage who does not have the experiences that I have. She actually, and I'm so glad that she had the ability to speak to her record. She says, I was the first statewide officer to mandate body cams and training on implicit bias. If you don't know what implicit bias means, that basically means you're being racist and you're being prejudiced. And I look at my record. These are the things that I have set into place, even as a GA and as a district attorney. When Pence did try to come for her, which I was sure he would try to come for her in regards to her record, which a lot of African Americans seem to have an issue with. So what do you guys think about her record in terms of what she's going to do to enforce? Do you think she's made up for it in regards to her policies that she wants to put into place?
I think that's a local question. I don't know. I think we hear what we hear on Black Twitter, and then the negative circulates. I think she probably did was in the best interest of Oakland, California. So I think we have to talk to the citizens of Oakland.
Yeah. Well, I think
citizen of Oakland.
I'm a citizen of Oakland. We were born in the same hospital. She shout out Kaiser Hospital, Oakland. Okay. I was happy about that. Oh yeah.
So we give it fist bumps now? We give
fist bumps. We give fist bumps. I'll be the first to admit, Kamala Harris's record early in her career is horrible in regards to protecting Black lives, Black men and women, and in her incarceration record. And I have to say this because me going through law school, I'm a California part attorney. I'm in corporate law, but understanding what it takes to be a DA, it's a give and a take there. You want African Americans and people of color to give some type of representation to the office. Mm-hmm. However, when you're in that office, you're still bound by the laws of the land. Mm-hmm. So when Pence said, oh, when you were in office, Blacks were 6 times more likely to be incarcerated. That's not necessarily because of her leadership. That's because of crack laws. That's because of over-policing. That's because of zoning. That's because when police go into underprivileged communities and have implicit bias, they take you to jail instead of taking you to get recovery or help. So I truly believe, I would like to believe she did the best that she could in that position, but it still looks bad. Anybody that's going to be a Black and be a DA, you're going to have some blemishes on your record. What I can say is that it's very factual, what Pence also admitted, that in 2019, Objective Resources said that she was the most liberal Senate person in the Senate, more liberal than anyone else. So that tells me that when she had that opportunity to show what she wanted to do, she was liberal. She fought for freedom and justice. She did the body cam thing later in her tenure. So I have faith that moving forward, I don't think she's going to be the most liberal person. I don't think she's going to be Bernie Sanders, but I think that she can be fair and she can move the needle left and closer to what it should be.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I want to go ahead and do roundtable of our final thoughts. We went well over what we intended.
I'm sorry.
I'll start with you, Jasmine. Do you have any last thoughts about the debate and the upcoming election?
I will just say that I pray for everyone's safety when they go to the polls. Do your research on the ballot initiatives. There are a lot that have to do with independent contractors. Vote November 3rd. Try to vote early if you can.
Amen.
I think we have 2 debates that told us who the logical choice is, but that's just my logic.
I'll go ahead. We'll go this way then. So for me, I got my ballot today in the mail. One of my friends were talking. She just said, "Should we have a ballot party?" And I think that that's such a great idea. I definitely think that would be fun. You guys, get your friends, if you guys want to go over, you have your sample ballots. I just got mine, and I do want to have a ballot party to go over the propositions, and that's something that we're going to do next week. So you guys, please tune in next week. We're going to be talking about some propositions. I didn't even get a chance to go over some of the feedback that I got to my question that I posed in my Instagram. But we will definitely cover those things. Thank you guys for tuning in. I just want to say I was very impressed with Kamala Harris. This for me was, a big deal because I am a Black girl from Oakland that was born in Kaiser Hospital. So that was, I was born in the same hospital. Yeah. So to me, that was huge. And I think we need to at least just take in this monumental moment. The fact that we have a woman of color, whether you agree that she's Black or not, whatever, she's a woman of color who did very well. She spoke very well for herself. And I think she handled Mr. Pence very, very well as well. So I'm excited to see the next debate and to see what's happening. This thing is like, I'm eating popcorn every day, literally. So yeah, vote, y'all.
Vote. I think I've said everything I can say on the presidential election. I think, Kamala, Oakland, stand up. I want to take my time to say it's really, really important to vote on one of the propositions. If you live in California, please vote yes on Prop 16. Yes on 16. Prop 16, what it does is it repeals an old Prop 209, which essentially took away all affirmative action in the workplace, and more importantly in schools. I'm a graduate of, I went to a HBCU and then I went to UCLA. And in times when Prop 209 was enacted, there was 13% Black people at UCLA, at other public institutions in California. Now it's at 3%, all because of this one deal, this one proposition. And that's the number of 500 to 1,000 different students, Black people, that can get into schools, that can get a better job, they can get an education, all because of this one ballot initiative. And that's just one example of it. That's just in UCLA's context. That's Cal Berkeley, that's in jobs, that's in healthcare, that's in everything else. So yes on Prop 16. We need affirmative action. If you want to, we can talk about it more, but yes on Prop 16.
Okay. And I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. But what I will say is definitely do your research on both candidates. I do think Senator Harris did an amazing job, not only representing herself as a potential VP, but also as a woman of color. I love that she said Breonna Taylor has not received justice. I love that she had the points on that. I said it earlier. And then before she was even nominated, I was like, a Black woman of color in any day would look good, So I will say though, and I'm gonna say it, it's like being a dead horse. Your local elections are where it really counts. Don't let the vote for presidential election ruin your friendships. You know what I mean? Like I've heard a lot of people like, oh my God, you're voting for so and so, I'm not gonna be friends. It's bigger than that. Figure out when your local elections are. figure out, if you want to vote early, how that process works. I don't think we do enough research. We were all researching about fracking and fossil fuels today, but I don't think that that's the majority. And if nothing else, even with these elections, and I'm just going to be honest, we've dealt with a lot of racist presidents our entire lives. So at the end of the day, don't let this stress you out. Remember your support systems, and at all costs, protect your peace, because once your mental stability is gone, that's really all that is left. Follow all of us, please, on our social medias. Follow Yelp_network. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to Aberlyn Woods, who was the previous YP president and brought people like me and Sharik together. That's how I met Jasmine, through the Urban League, not specifically through Abby, but she's been such an influential part of my life in my time in LA. Stay connected, you guys. It is so important. And the last thing I'm going to say is, and this is something that Senator Harris said, she said relationships are important.
Yes.
And if nothing else, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you so much. And we really appreciate all of you for tuning in.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Next week.
Hey.
At the normal time.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Bye.